I'll be honest and admit that the first time I read the story about the woman who easily gave away her precious stone, my first thought was, why is it that women tend to be the ones who are more willing to give up something precious to them? So that was my first thought. No shade to men, myself included. Just naming that was a thought that I had. My next thought was, I too want to be given whatever it is that is within that woman that made it so easy for her, because I don't know that I would give my precious stone away that easily. I mean, I'm not a stingy person or anything. I just didn't think I shared her seemingly carefree spirit of generosity. It reminded me of this other story told by one of my colleagues, Reverend Victoria Safford. It's about a woman on a subway train in New York City. It goes that the station is crowded, and this woman, another woman, leaves the train, and she realizes she's holding only one of her gloves in her hands. She looks back into the subway car and sees the matching one was left on the seat, but it's too late to rush back and get it. Suddenly, as the doors begin to close, she flings out her arm and tosses the remaining glove on the seat alongside its mate. The door shut and the train pulls away. What might look like a frivolous gesture, a toss of a glove, or a yes appearing to be much too easily given, spontaneous or spur of the moment, might not be as it seems. The wise woman with the stone and the woman who tossed her glove both likely lived long lives of generosity. Lives of wild and creative generosity of spirit. They had to have lived lives with generosity embedded as a core value to be able to think so quickly, to act so urgently and healthily, to know precisely in that moment what would bless the world right then and there. It happened in an instant, but saying yes was planned giving through and through. Something in those women's past, or maybe everything in their past, prepared those gestures of generosity. There are habits of living and giving practiced and refined their whole life long. And I think the same may be true for many of us. Perhaps not our whole life long, but maybe for a short or long while. I believe many of us have held generosity as a core spiritual value. Considering your active choice to be in spiritual community, reflecting on this very thing speaks to such character and aspirations. According to an article on the science of generosity published by the University of Notre Dame, generosity has not long been viewed as a normal trait of the ordinary or of all people, but rather one's expected to be practiced by those of higher aspirations or spiritual discipline. Basically, it takes a certain kind of person to want to have the spiritual discipline of generosity. It's not just a common occurrence in the world. You don't have to be generous. You choose to be generous. Generosity is thus conceived as a learned character trait that involves both attitude and action, an inclination to give liberally, and an actual practice of giving liberally. Generosity is therefore not a random idea or haphazard behavior, but rather in its mature form, a basic personal moral orientation to life. Again, this is a quote from The Science of Generosity that points to the generosity that those women reflected was not haphazard behavior, but rather in mature form, a basic personal moral orientation to life. In a world of moral contrast, generosity encompasses not only the moral good expressed, but also many vices rejected, such as selfishness, greed, fear, and meanness. Being generous helps to shed selfishness, greed, fear, and meanness. An example of this is expressed in the Buddhist teaching that since the root causes of all unwholesome mental, verbal, and physical actions are greed, ill will, and ignorance, an act of generosity will not only defeat the root cause of greed, but will also act to defeat the other two root causes of ill will and ignorance to a certain extent. In Buddhism, generosity is regarded as one of the most fundamental and essential virtues in one's spiritual development and is the first step on the bodhisattva's path to perfection. The virtue of generosity has been a central tenet in many religious traditions. Some know that for Christians to be generous is to be conformed not just to Christ, but also to the loving divine parent whose self-gift into the world makes possible human fellowship in the divine life. The Apostle Paul regarded generosity as expressed in the fruits of the Spirit as proof of the genuine character of Christian love. This was how it was initially introduced to me in my life in my childhood as a fruit of the Spirit that my mom displayed and felt was important that I eat from that tree so that I would grow into a generous person. But generosity was also a virtue in the classical pagan context. It is the third of the virtues of character discussed by Aristotle back in the day, following the heels of courage and temperance. It's coming. Similarly, in a much more modern sense, UUs now have values which are not so different from the virtues of ancient Greek ethics. As many of you may know, this past General Assembly, our delegates voted to accept and study a new way of covenanting around 7 values instead of 7 or 8 principles. And here is the cool flower-like image of the proposed 7 values. Now it can be displayed on the screen. There we go. One of which, if you all can see, I don't know if y'all can see the screen, that you might have guessed we were talking about one of the petals of the flower. Can y'all see that? What y'all see? Generosity, yes. It is one of our core values, one of the proposed, values. As of October of 2023, just last month, the final revision to Section 2.2 of Article 2, the Unitarian Universalist Association's Values and Covenant, it states, can I get the next slide? And we're going to attempt, if y'all are willing and able, to read this through together. Can y'all see that from back there? As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. 2 more slides. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, our other shared values are justice, interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, and generosity. And what it says of generosity is, we cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Thank you. We did that. As I prepare to close my reflection, I return to the question of what makes it easy to say yes to someone or to requests of this church community. Embracing and embodying generosity as personal moral virtue and a religious value that guides giving even before being asked. A generous disposition is an orientation towards an easy yes. I would say gratitude, the simple and profound feeling of being thankful, is the foundation of all generosity. Generosity is easy when we believe that right now, right here, in this form, in this place, we ourselves are being given what we need and are grateful for it. A perspective of gratitude is the seed of generosity and our greatest present to humanity. What will you do with your precious, precious gift when asked to trust, to love, to give of yourselves, to share your blessings? I hope you celebrate it and choose to bless the world, knowing that your gifts are welcome here. Thank you.